Okay, I want to say two things. So one is like I'll give you a great example of going for it. There was a guy on the national webinar at 9 o'clock. He wrote $34,000 in annualized premium last week, not last month, last week. And that was with 21 applications. And that came from a 100A lead order. So basically he closed 21% of that 100A leads, and he was able to generate $34,000 in annual premium. Now, if you look at 100 times 30, that's what, $3,000, or no, is that more?
Yeah, 3,000.
3,000. So he spent 3,000, he invested 3,000 to get back 34,000. Man, that's a beautiful investment or return on your
That's
investment,
a
right?
1,000% return on investment.
They call that ROI. What a
Mhm.
great ROI. And with simplified issue, I mean, you get the money in your bank right away. It's not like you're waiting weeks. You're just waiting days to get paid. So that's the one thing I want to say is just go for it, guys. The other thing I wanted to say real quick before Joe gets into the training is Mutual of Omaha made an announcement that they're going to increase the age limit for the Term Life Express product. So they have raised the age limit to 70 now. So you can now write it Term Life Express to age 70. So I just thought I'd announce that.
That's amazing, dude. When did that take place?
Yesterday.
Oh my goodness, that's incredible, dude.
Yeah, buddy.
Wow. Do you know, can you get is it just a 10-year term that you can get, I wonder?
I think it is, but I don't know the details. I just saw that they increased it.
Well, hey, dude, while we got everybody on the phone, man, let's just do it real quick. Let me see. Let's just take a minute, guys. I'm gonna open up my phone real quick. Let's run a
Well,
quote.
on the app, it's still showing 65.
Oh, it
So
is. Okay.
I'm not sure when it takes to effect. I think it might go into effect October 1, but
Okay.
one of my agents sent a copy of the letter and grouped me from Mutual of Omaha making that announcement.
Well, that's incredible, dude. That's really impressive. With that, guys, we're gonna get into our training for today. This is product training, guys. We're going to have this call. This part of the call is going to be recorded. It will be made available by Wednesday of next week on the Senior Solutions website. Go to seniorsolutionsagents.com. Click on the product training tab, and this video will be added so you can refer to it years and months and years later. Okay. With that, like I said, this is going to be on the Living Promise Mutual of Omaha Living Promise, guys. This is their final expense product. This is probably our number one seller right next to Transamerica. I'd say with our agency, Senior Solutions, Living Promise, Final Expense, and Transamerica are probably neck and neck, one and one, probably about well, not 50-50 because we give business to other companies, but these two are definitely neck and neck as far as our production. It's a great product. It's a great company, great name recognition. So I highly recommend considering using Mutual of Omaha Living Promise. Just some of the highlights with the Living Promise. There are two plans. I'm going to circle this. You have a level benefit plan, and then you have a graded benefit plan. For level, the age starts at 45, so your client needs to be at least 45 years of age, and maximum age is going to be 85. If it's a graded product, the cutoff is age 80. So if your client has matured and they are at age 81 and they need a graded product, you need to look somewhere else. You may have to go with AIG. They go up to age 85 on their guaranteed issue product. Face amounts. They start down as low as $2,000 and go as high as $40,000. And then if it's graded, it's 2,000 to 20,000. there are only two classifications. It's either standard tobacco or non-tobacco. There's no preferred. This is all simplified issue. So it's either you're either going to qualify for living benefit graded and then either tobacco, non-tobacco. Now, let's see here. Ungraded, standard. Jimmy, ungraded, do they still have tobacco or is it just one rate?
It's just one rate.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter if they smoke or not, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, which is kind of an advantage, guys. If you have someone who has to go graded, maybe they have a health issue, consider, especially if they're a tobacco user, consider mutual because there's no tobacco rating on their graded product. There's so no tobacco designation on that. Okay, so I would look at that as kind of a big selling benefit for that particular product. As far as payments, you can do annual, semi-annual, quarterly, monthly. I'd say 99.99% of our clients all do monthly. There is a policy fee that's already built in. It is commissionable, so you are getting paid a commission on here. Riders, there is an accelerated death benefit, terminal illness, nursing home rider, confinement rider, and there's also an optional accidental death benefit rider. One of the cool things about Mutual of Omaha, which I really like, is that if you do happen to add the accidental rider, it is for the life of the policy. It does not fall off. With some of our other carriers like Transamerica, it falls off at age 80. With Mutual, it stays on there for the life of the policy. Also, depending on what state you're in, just be careful make sure that you're up to speed on your accelerated death benefit rider in your state. It does vary from state to state. There are some states where I believe it's not available, and there are some states like Florida where there's actually like an enhanced benefit that I believe also includes chronic illness, but it's not available in other states. Let's see. Loan costs, low cost loans. We really don't. Our agents. I mean, we really don't really talk about that too much. Some of the other benefits, death benefit guarantees. Policy is guaranteed to age 100 as long as the premiums are paid. Now, here's the thing, and just if you guys aren't aware of this, what happens when your agent, if your client will say, well, what happens to my policy when I turn 100? Maybe they have longevity in their family. Okay, that's a great question. So, and with the Mutual of Omaha policy, is that premiums are only paid until age 100. If you have a client that is paying on this policy and they do reach the age of 100, their policy at that point basically it terminates. Not that it terminates, but Mutual of Omaha is just going to send them a check for whatever the face amount is. So, for as an example, if it's a $10,000 policy and your client makes it to 100, say, hey, congratulations. Here's a check for you paid up your policy. It's all paid for. Here's a check for $10,000, tax free. Okay. So, in case you didn't know how that works, that's how it works with Mutual of Omaha. With some of the other policies, they go to age 121. So chances are they're never going to make it to that age, so they have to pay the premiums even if they make it past age 100. Some of the other selling features is that it is a simplified issue underwriting. There are no health exams, just simplified issue. It's great for small face amounts. No death benefit reduction in early years. Level benefit only, meaning is that on the level benefit, it's immediate coverage. So once they're into it, it pays 100% after they made their first premium payment. On a graded death benefit, it is a 2-year reduced death benefit. Basically, what the client's going to get is 100% return of premiums, plus they're going to get 10% interest in addition to their premiums. Jimmy, that's correct, right? With Mutual, it's return of premium plus 10.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. As far as quoting quoting the product, the easiest way is to run the quotes on your phone. You can download the app to your phone. Just go to your mobile app store, type in Mutual of Omaha, and the app will come up. It's the quoting tool for agents. You don't need an agent. Um, there's no password. You don't need your agent number. It's open for everybody. And you can also quote this manually, or you can quote it on your computer as well, utilizing the WinFlex software. So you got a couple of different options as far as running it. Jimmy, anytime if there's anything you want to add, just let me know, okay?
Sure. Thank you.
Yep. And then just on some of the benefits, like we already mentioned before, we've got the level benefit. We also have the graded benefit. These are just some of the optional or the riders that come with it. This accelerated death benefit for terminal illness or nursing home is absolutely free, guys. It comes with the policy. Accelerated death benefit simply means if they do, if your client does come down with a terminal illness, like cancer, or maybe they have kidney failure and they can't get a organ transplant, and they're just not doing well. If it's to a reasonable degree of certainty that death will occur within 12 months, they can accelerate their death benefit. Okay. Or if they have to go to a nursing home, the accelerated death benefit for the nursing home is that they have to be, first of all, they have to be confined to a nursing home for at least 90 days, and the nursing home confinement has to be permanent, not temporary. It's not like if if your client falls down, breaks their hip, and has to go to a nursing home for 3 months for rehab, that they can accelerate it. It's got to be for something very, very serious where they're going to be in there for an extended part. And as you can see here in Florida, in the state of Florida, there is a critical illness where if they cannot do at least 2 of the activities of daily living for chronic illness, they can also accelerate that. But I believe that's only in the state of Florida. Like I said, it does vary from state to state, so just verify that. If you got to go graded, well, let me back up here. I already mentioned this once before, but there is also an accidental death benefit that is available as well. That's only available on the level benefit, not available for graded. If they have to go graded, guys, there are no additional riders available. The accelerated death benefit for terminal illness or nursing home is not available, and also the accidental death benefit is not available on the graded benefit as well. Okay. And again, at any time, if you have any questions, let us know. Guys, this is just, again, I'm going to skip over this because I think we've covered everything pretty well on this. This is just a plain highlight sheet that really talks about the different benefits. We've already talked about the accelerated benefit, the differences with that, nursing home waiver, and the accidental benefit. One thing here, and I do see at maturity age, let me highlight this. Let me get my, right here. Okay, this is a little fuzzy, but see here where I got my little hand where it says maturity date, age 100, except in Florida. Now, Florida, you get the extra benefit of the chronic illness, but it's paid out till age 121. So if you're selling this policy in Florida, keep that in mind. But on the rest of them, it's paid out at age 100. Okay, is when the policy would end. They smell. Yeah. Okay. Now, one thing with Mutual of Omaha, I've seen a few new agents get snagged on this, where they wrote the app, everything looked good, but they were totally unaware that there is a height and weight chart with the final expense plan. Now, it is pretty liberal, but if your client is just 1 pound over, there's really not any wiggle room. As an example, let's say you have and I believe this is This is unisex. So this is men and women, I believe. Does that sound right, Jimmy?
Yes, that goes for male or female.
Yeah, so it's unisex, guys. Perfect. So um, just take a look at it. I would say for most men, uh, most guys are going to be probably between 5'8" and 5'10". We'll just kind of go 5'9" in the middle. So if you got a client who's 5'9", the minimum weight, so if they're super skinny, they don't want them. It's 112 pounds. But the for maximum weight for level benefit, guys, they can be 291 pounds at 5'9" and still get a level benefit. Now that's pretty chunky. I'm just telling you. If they're over this, you may want to look at a different carrier. But the maximum, if they're over 291, you'd have to go graded. And if they're over 300, they would not even qualify for that's the maximum weight for the graded benefit. So just be aware of that, and maybe have this downloaded to your phone, or just keep this little fact sheet with you. Um, but like I said, it is, it is pretty liberal. But I have seen a few agents get stumped on this, where their agents were a little bit too heavy for their or they weren't tall enough, or they were a little bit too chunky. It happens. And then knockout medications, guys. Just be aware of do a good job of field underwriting. Make sure you're asking all the questions that are on the application. This is a little cheat sheet with some of the medications that are like that they will not consider up here at the top. Now, if it has an asterisk, it means it may be considered for graded, as an example. Um, so if you want to carry this with you or have it on your phone, when you're going through your client's medications, make sure it's not one of these knockout drugs. And then with that, we highly recommend completing the phone interview, guys. With the Mutual of Omaha Final Expense app, there is not a phone interview required. But they do conduct random phone interviews with about 10% of the applications that come in. Um, so you just never know. It's not 10% of your applications. I had an agent the other day I was talking to, had a good, like the last 10 applications they submitted with Mutual of Omaha, 6 or 7 of them had phone interviews. And it's not that they were picking on that particular agent. It just got the unlucky draw, man. They just happened to be the ones that they picked out. So if you want to eliminate that, I really recommend trying to complete the phone interview. Or if you're not going to complete the phone interview, at least educate your clients and let them know potentially there may be a phone interview on the way. I typically like knocking it out. Um, Especially if I got a client that, number one, I want to get a decision on. That's one of the benefits of doing Aptical, is that in most cases, you're going to get an immediate decision, or at least you're going to know with about 99% certainty that they're going to be approved for the product. Or if I get a client that, you know what, I don't trust them doing a phone interview on their own. Okay. And I want to kind of babysit and kind of micromanage the process, if you will. Those I will I'll have a conversation with my client, talk them through the interview about how it's conducted, and we just knock it out right then and there. That way, if there's an issue with it, at least I'm there to help kind of control the process a little bit. But when you're doing the phone interviews, they do have great hours. Guys, if you're doing the Aptical phone interview Monday through Friday, they're open from 10:30 in the morning until 2 o'clock a.m. That's Eastern Standard Time. And then Sundays are open from 10 in the morning until 10 p.m. So based on this, there's really no time that you could call potentially where they wouldn't be available unless you're running business like at 3 o'clock in the morning. Um, here's the phone interview number. And this just kind of walks you through the process of how to do it. It's pretty easy. I mean, you're going to get on the phone. You're going to identify yourself. They're going to want your information. If you've got your, try to have your Mutual of Omaha producer number available. You're going to let them know if you're applying for level or graded. They're going to ask for your phone number, the state that the application is being taken in. They're going to verify with you the the form number on the application. They're going to verify some of the client's information as well. Now, Jimmy, you got a great tip on Aptical too. Before I go to the next slide, can you talk a little bit about the app that you have on your phone where you scan their driver's license? That's really cool.
Yeah, so you can go to your app store and download Aptical, the app. It's a free app. And I highly recommend setting it up before you do it, because it does take a few minutes to set it up. It's going to ask you for your agent number and all that stuff. But once you got it all in place, and you're with a client, you just, tap the Aptical app. It'll ask you, which carrier you want to use. So right now we have both Mutual and Foresters are on there. So you can use either one. You'd select United of Omaha. Then you'd select the Living Promise. Then it's going to ask you to take a picture of their driver's license. So you just take a picture of the front, then it'll ask you to take a picture of the back. And once you do that, like, it immediately goes into a call queue, and it shows you on the app like how many seconds it's going to take for them to call you back. And usually it's less than 30 seconds. In some cases it's instant, right? And so you'll see a number that's going to, your phone's going to ring. Make sure you answer it, because you're not going to recognize the number. But when it's ringing, you take that call. They're going to tell you that, they've already verified all their information off the driver's license, and you just basically need to answer like one or two questions, and then you're handing the phone over to them. So that's going to save you at least 7 minutes that you don't have to tell them their name, their address, their date of birth. If you ever done Aptical, you know that they want to come back and spell every single letter of their name and address. So it kind of is a time-consuming process. So you kind of bypass all of that when you use the app. And that's really about it. I mean, and then, you go on into your interview. So one thing I do want to, say, when you're going to do the Aptical interview, before you do it, you want to coach them a little bit. What I mean by coach them is just kind of want them to understand how the process works. So you want to make sure Aptical is going to ask them if you read to them the disclosures for accelerated death benefit, if they signed the application. So you want to make sure, they did sign the app, and you want to make sure you did read those disclosures to them. I just summarize it, and then let them know that they're going to ask them all the health questions. I usually give them the questions right there in front of them so they can read along with them. I tell them they're going to ask you all these questions verbatim. These are yes and no answers. Do not elaborate. Just say yes or no. And so, like, for example, let's say they say, oh, well, I have diabetes. They don't need to go into the diabetic situation. It's just, were you diagnosed before 50 or after? So if they say, have you been diagnosed with diabetes before the age of 50? Then their answer is to be no. And I just kind of coach them like that. And I tell them, look, I already asked you all these questions. Your answer to me was no. So your answer should not change. Do you feel like you're going to change your answer? I just kind of tell them like that, like, because I need to know now before we call them. They'll say, no, that's no to everything. Okay, well, just make sure it's no, 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 no. When you get to the end of all the questions, they're going to put you on a brief hold. They're going to check your medical information bureau and your prescription history. If they come back, they may want to ask you a few additional questions. At that point, that's when you're going to elaborate and answer any questions that are specific to you. Then they're going to put you on hold again. They're going to come back with the decision. If you're approved, congratulations, we'll move forward. So, I mean, that's really about it. So the only exception, I just want to make this clear, the only exception to getting approval on Aptical and then later getting a decline is this, and you need to ask the person up front, have you ever had a policy with Mutual of Omaha before? Specifically, you're looking for a Medicare supplemental policy, okay? Because what happens is Aptical, looks at the MIB and the prescription history, and nothing may come up there, right? But this person may have currently or may have had in the past a Medicare supplement policy. So after Aptical interview has been processed, Mutual of Omaha just double checks their billing for that customer on Medicare, and they may have been billed for treatment for something that was not reported to the MIB. And if they were billed for that treatment within the last couple of years, they're going to deny that application or counteroffer with graded. That's going to be the only time you're going to get a denial if it was approved on Aptical. So just make sure you ask them, know up front, did you have a supplemental policy with Mutual? And if they did, they're going to know all your billing history. Did you have any of these things? So you just want to, make sure you clarify everything with them before you get on that call.
Yeah, good point. It doesn't happen very often, guys, but I have seen a few policies get declined because of that. So just be aware of that. That's great information. And then Jimmy, you really covered the everything else here. I mean, step 2, personal health interview. Just make sure your clients are aware of that. And then step 3 is the eligibility results. And final is when they're going to come back, let you know if they're eligible for approval. So just, I'm a big believer in I like doing the phone interviews up front. So I'm just encourage everybody, if you have time, it does take a little bit extra time, but potentially could save you a lot of time and aggravation in the future, especially if your client gets flagged for a random phone interview. Okay. All right. With that, we're going to go ahead and move on. The My Wishes record keeper, guys, this is not really part of the application, but I just wanted to put this up here. These are the free forms that you can order from Mutual of Omaha. If you haven't ordered them, call their marketing department, order as many of these as you can. This is part of your pre-sale folder. It's a great thing to have and share with your clients, especially when you're presenting Mutual of Omaha. Okay. And then with that, Jimmy, we're going to get right into the application. Okay.
Okay.
And we'll see if we have any questions about anything. I do have. We can got a couple of questions here. So let's just take a couple of real quick questions. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. So I'm going to try to unmute Alex Guzman if he's available. Alex, if you're available, you're unmuted. He's not picking up. Alex, if you're there, buddy. Nope. Okay. Go ahead and mute him back. Let me go to the next question. Okay, this is from Gary Chronister. Gary, you're unmuted if you have a question, sir.
No, I'm fine. I was just wondering how you get the height and weight chart. I did a screenshot there. So
okay, screenshot plus also Gary, you can just go to the Mutual of Omaha website and go under when you log in. There's there I believe it says forms and materials, and you can get it there under new business. It's located there. Okay.
Okay.
If you have trouble finding it, just let us know and we will get it to you. Okay.
Okay.
All right. No worries. Thank you. Let's see if we have any other questions. Nope. Okay. That's good. All right, guys, moving on to filling out the application. This is the initial cover sheet where you're going to select if you're applying for either a level benefit or a graded benefit. I like Mutual of Omaha's applications. It's pretty straightforward, guys. This is all just straightforward information. Name, sex, height, weight, social security number, address, state of birth, where were they born. If they were born out of the United States, you just need to put the name of the country. So if it's Mexico, just write in the word Mexico. You don't need to date of birth, age, phone number, email, driver's license number. Guys, they are looking for a driver's license number. If they don't have a driver's license number, don't lie about it. Don't make one up. Just put in, if they have a state ID, just put that in there. And then what you want to do is on the comment section, you just want to elaborate to the fact why they don't have a driver's license. It's not a requirement that they have a driver's license, so you don't need to lie about it. Just be honest with you. I run into clients all the time that don't have driver's license. Either it got suspended years ago and they just never renewed it, or they don't have a car, so they just let it renew. I have a lot of clients, believe it or not, that just they never got one. They just never learned how to drive. And that's when you get into your bigger cities like Chicago, New York, maybe even LA, I don't know, where they have like awesome public transportation, and they just never had the money to get, they never had a reason to get a driver's license. So it happens. Are they a legal resident in the United States? Answer that. Tobacco use, yes or no. Remember, tobacco use, they're only going back 12 months. So if they could have smoked for 50 years. As long as they haven't smoked in the last 12 months, they're a non-smoker in the eyes of Mutual of Omaha. The owner information, guys, you are only filling this section out if the owner is someone other than the insured. So, and I can tell you this and Jimmy can tell you this, traditionally, Mutual of Omaha is not a big fan of other people being the owner of the policy. So if you're going to list someone else as the owner, you better have a good reason for it. Okay. Health questions. These are all your knockout questions right here. Let me highlight this. Okay, this is where, if you can see this a little bit better, this is where the questions start. Guys, these are question 1, 2, 3, and is it 4? Treatment for cancer. Yeah. 1 through 4, guys, these are your knockout questions. So if they answer yes to any of these questions in the first 4, they are not going to be considered for this particular product. Do not pass go. Okay? So my advice is get yourself familiar with these questions. And when you're going through, once you've kind of knocked out all the big stuff, when you're actually doing the application, read these questions to the client verbatim. Make sure that you're getting the proper answers, because it's really embarrassing to get somebody, knocked out because you didn't answer the right questions. Moving on to page 2, this is a continuation of the health questions. And then see, I'm going to highlight this again. There you go. And question number 5, this is the one about the diabetes. This is the one that gets some people stumped sometimes. Diabetes diagnosed, here's how the question reads. Has the proposed insured ever received care or treatment for, or been advised by a physician or healthcare provider to seek treatment for diabetes before the age of 50, or diabetes at any age with complications like all the retinopathies, whether it be eye, kidney, or nerve, peripheral vascular disease? Okay, so in a situation like this, if your client, if their diabetes was after the age of 50, even if they're taking insulin, they can still get a preferred rate. This is really where Mutual of Omaha excels over some of the competition, is that they're insulin dependent friendly, as long as that was diagnosed after the age of 50, and provided they don't have any chronic issues or complications with their diabetes. So if they answer yes to any of these questions, guys, they potentially are still eligible for the graded product. And this is another area where Mutual Omaha really excels, is because you can have multiple questions answered yes, and they will still qualify. So as an example, I'll just give you a real quick scenario. Let's say you got the guy who's diabetic. He's insulin dependent diabetes, um, has had maybe a few complications, and you have to answer yes to that. And then you get down to the chronic, let's say the COPD. The guy's a smoker and has COPD. You have to answer yes to that, and maybe you get a few other yeses. They're still going to be eligible and considered for the graded benefit. Whereas with some of the other carriers, because you're answering yeses multiple times, would be like totally knocked out and not even be eligible. So if you do answer on the second set of questions, 5 through 10, if they do answer yes to any of these, doesn't mean they don't qualify. It just means that they will qualify as a graded benefit. Now with Mutual of Omaha, they do ask questions that some of the other carriers do not ask. As an example, where's the little cursor here? About been convicted, or currently waiting trial for a felony. They're not big on felons. We got plenty of carriers. If you have someone that in perfect health, but they just got out of jail, send them to Transamerica. They don't care. Or if they have a bad driving record, been treated or advised to have treatment for alcohol or drug abuse, or convicted more than once of reckless driving or driving under the influence of drugs and alcohol. If you got a client that's in perfect health but they like to drink and they get DUIs, again, send them to Transamerica. You can get a preferred rate over there. Okay, Jimmy, anything else that you'd like to add about the underwriting? Anything that you feel like we need to elaborate on, or I'm missing?
No, I mean, it's very simple if you just read the questions.
Yeah.
You know, if they have a medical illness that's not on here, then don't worry about it. I'll give you an example. I'll get people calling me, "Hey Jimmy, my client has Crohn's disease. You know, is Mutual of Omaha okay with it?" Well, it's not one of the questions, so just don't even worry about it. Or, you know, they have rheumatoid arthritis. It's not an issue. It's not on that question. Um, I want to elaborate too. You know, Joe mentioned it earlier, but I want to make a big thing about it. Sometimes you have people that are smokers, and maybe they have a medical condition that, for example, might be eligible for standard with Transamerica, but tobacco standard rate is usually higher than a Mutual of Omaha graded rate. And so you can always fall back to this. So like I'll quote them the standard. If they don't bite on it, maybe it's like a little price a little too high for them. You know, not so much like out of their pocketbook, but like the value of it, the amount of face amount they're getting for the monthly payment they feel is out of proportion. Then I can fall back to this and show them the difference. You know, I'll explain the graded versus the thing. And so you can close them that way. The other thing I want to say about graded, if I can take a minute, Joe, is like how to sell it. So a lot of agents.
Yeah, do that, because I'm going to give them an illustration. I'm going to do some quotes while you're talking, okay?
Okay. So a lot of agents will tell me, oh, well, they only qualified graded and they didn't want to take it. And, you know, like they can't, you know, like, oh, they don't want the 2-year wait. Well, it's all in presentation. Okay. So I tell them like in a positive way. So look, you know, because you have, you know, this medical condition or this medical condition, most insurance companies, they're not going to accept you. You're not going to get any kind of coverage, right? But with Mutual of Omaha, they're okay with it. They're gonna give you a deductible though, and this deductibles with time. And let me elaborate on that. This is exactly how I explain it to them, because people are used to deductibles. Okay. So I tell them, look, first, let me ask you something, Mr. Smith. Do you see you dying of natural causes in the next 2 years? Do you see that as being a possibility? Most people say, no, I'm healthy, I'm good, I've recovered from this, or, yeah, I don't see that happening. Well, great, because what Mutual of Omaha will do is they'll go ahead and issue you a policy, right? And if you die in those first 2 years in any kind of accidental death, maybe it's a car accident, maybe you were on a ladder and you fell off the roof and you hit your head, you know, they're going to pay the full face amount. And I'll tell them the amount we're talking about. Maybe they're looking at 15,000. They'll pay the full 15,000. However, in order for them to pay on a natural death, you have to live 2 years. And you already said you don't think you're going to die by natural causes in the next 2 years. So after those first 2 years have passed, then they're going to pay the full 15,000 regardless of the cause of death. And you're able to get that. And even though you have this condition, even though you're a smoker, you can get that at this competitive rate of only this amount, da 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 da, boom. And that's how you write it up. So, it's all in the way you present it to them.
Jimmy, let me give you another scenario too. On if you're leaning towards Mutual of Omaha as an example, let's take the guy, the 65-year-old male, okay? 65 years old, a guy who's smoker, and because he still smokes and he has COPD, okay? But still puffing on the cigarettes, okay? See it all the time. With Transamerica, believe it or not, we can still get the 65-year-old smoker with COPD. We can still get him same-day coverage. Okay, it's called the standard benefit. With Mutual, because he has COPD, it's automatically going to be graded, but there's no upcharge for the smoking. Whereas with Transamerica, he's getting hit twice. He's going standard, which is a higher rate, and he's a smoker, which is higher rate. Just as an example, comparing, and a lot of times I'll do this. I'll give my client an option. Let's say the 65-year-old COPD smoker wants $10,000 of coverage. As an example, I'll explain the benefits of like how Jimmy said it with the deductible, but only with time. Mr. Client, on this side, you have Transamerica, a $10,000 benefit, and I would be able to get you immediate coverage for not only accidental, but for any health causes. For $10,000, your premiums would be $115.40. On the other hand, if we go Mutual of Omaha, it would be this policy, and you'd have the 2-year time deductible. But I could get your premiums down to $94.84. You tell me which is best for you. So guys, for that, what are we talking about here? $21 for $21 a month. Your client may be looking at you like, well, I'm probably not going to die in the next 2 years. I smoke and I got COPD, but other than that, I'm in pretty decent health. I'll take the $94 a month. So at least you're giving them the option of one or the other. And what that will do is that will prevent another agent from coming in behind you and trying to replace the business by saying, well, did you know you could have gotten standard, you could have got same day coverage. It's only $20 more. And the client is like, they're educated now. They're like, yeah, I knew that when I signed up. I chose it for the lower premium, but with the 2-year wait, I'm fine with that. So it's just a good way to kind of sell your client on the benefit. This way, Jimmy, they're the one choosing. They have an option. They're the one choosing to take the graded policy versus paying a higher amount for same day coverage.
Exactly.
All right, guys. With that, let's go ahead and move on because we're about 5 minutes over. I apologize, but let's just the rest of the application very, very straightforward. Let me see where you're going to select level benefit or grade it. You're going to put in the dollar amount. whatever the premiums you quoted are going to go here. Beneficiary, very, very, very straightforward. Make sure you get your signature, answer all the questions properly here. As the producer, you're going to sign it down here. Gonna kind of go through this pretty quick. This is the producer report. If you conducted the PHI, the phone interview, answer yes. Put in, they're going to give you a reference number. Put that in there. But they give you three choices. You can deduct premiums immediately upon approval or issue, or the more popular is that most clients are going to want to get this coordinated with their Social Security. So let's say I'm writing a policy today, but they don't want it to start until October the 3rd. I'm going to check this box, and then I'm going to put in here 10/3. That's a 3, by the way, 2018. And then for the ongoing premiums, I'm going to put in here that it's going to be on the 3rd. Now, Mutual of Omaha does have this great tool where if your client wants their benefit coordinated with their Social Security, like on one of the Wednesdays, there's a lot of people you're going to find out that get paid either on the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd or 4th Wednesday of the month. You can select that as well. Okay. Actually, you can do other days of the week too, but stick to the Wednesdays. Okay. And then payer information. Who's the person on the bank account? The payer can be someone other than the insured, and they don't need to be the owner of the policy. As an example, let's say you're selling a policy to someone and they're really on a tight budget, and one of their kids has agreed to say, you know what, I'll pay for it. You don't need to, and I would advise, don't make the kid the owner of the policy. Just make them the payer of the policy. They don't have to be the owner to be the payer. And that'll save you a lot of aggravation of trying to explain to Mutual of Omaha why this person is owning the policy versus the insured. And then just put in where's the money coming from. Checking, savings, name of the bank. Put in the routing number, account number. You do not need to get a voided check, but if you do, that'd be great. And then they sign down here. All straightforward. Conditional receipt. So typically we're not collecting checks. What we're going to do is we're going to have the client sign right here. We're going to date it. We're going to check this box right here. Electronic transaction authorization. We're going to put that, and then we're going to put in the amount of the premium and signature of producer. You sign there, client signs here. Pretty short application. Yes.
Hey, Joe, I just want to interject something on that page, just to kind of help people. Some of the newer agents seem to always have trouble getting the account information on the bank. And
sure.
So an easy way to do this is, you start filling out the bank draft form. And then so I tell them, look, we're going to set this up, what's convenient for you. When do you get your Social Security benefits? Oh, you get it on the 3rd. Okay, we'll set that up.
Let me back up to that actual form.
All right, cool. So then I'll tell them, look, we're going to set it up where, your first payment's going to be due on October the 3rd. And then every month after that, it's going to be the 3rd. And then so I kind of go over that page with them, right? And then I have them sign it. They agree to that. Then I'll say, now go ahead and just get a check and write void on it. Okay. This makes it so much easier than trying to ask for the bank account number, because that's where people kind of get hung up sometimes. They're like a little nervous. Oh, I don't want to give you my bank information. So I don't ask them for their bank information. I tell them to get a check and write void real big on it. I tell them like that, write void real big. I don't know what it is about that, but people just feel safe. Oh, it says void. They can't do nothing wrong with it. And I get the check and I fill it in later. Right now, if they don't have a check, because a lot of people don't use checks anymore, I've already asked for it and they say, oh, I don't have a check. And I say, oh, it's okay. We don't have to have one. go ahead and just put in your account number right here. You'll be surprised at how many people know their account number by heart. If they don't, well, then now you fall back on, do you have a bank statement? Do you have a phone app? Do you have a little card in your wallet? Do you have a deposit slip? Like, you can ask different questions. But I'm telling you, if you just ask for a voided check, you're going to alleviate a lot of objections right there. Just do it that way.
Yep, totally agree, man. That's a great way of handling it. Let's see, guys, the last form that you probably already explained this to your client, but this is the accelerated death benefit form. They're going to sign there. Authorization to release information. They're going to sign there. And then the last page of the application is, which I'm not going to go over, is copies that you're going to leave behind with your client. And then lastly, this is the life application submission form. Guys, if you're doing a paper application, remember, there's two ways to submit applications with Mutual. You can either do a paper app, fax them in, or you can do one on your iPod or iPad, I mean, and you can do an electronic application, okay? And then, Jimmy, don't they have an email address now or no?
No.
No, okay. How do you do it when you do it like how Mike does it, Mike Clanton?
You fax it in?
He just faxes it in. Okay. Guys, this is the cover sheet.
Service.
Okay. He does like e-faxing, electronic faxing?
Right.
Yeah, okay. So we have a couple agents that use like scanned applications, and then they fax them in. But make sure this submission form needs to be done on every application, okay? And then faxing it in, this is the fax number. You're going to submit, this is the fax number for all applications to Mutual of Omaha. And that's it. So anything, Jimmy, we ran a little bit over, but I think this was really good information, and people will be able to use this as a resource for years to come. But any other nuggets or tidbits you'd like to add before we let everybody go?
I just add something in that, like, if you want to be paperless, you can take your iPad or some other form of tablet with you out there. As long as you have an internet connection, most people can use their phone now for a hotspot to give their tablet internet. But you can go in and just do an electronic application. And the neat thing about doing it that way is that you're not going to skip any steps. It won't let you complete it unless everything's won't let you submit the application unless everything's completed. So I mean, you're going to have 100% accuracy when you go with an e-app. The other thing is that it's in the system right then and there. You don't have to go home and fax it later. You don't have to worry about juggling paperwork, or it's going to save you a lot of time on the back end, because the application is electronically submitted and it's in queue right then and there for the underwriter. So I mean, you're going to save a lot of time. They usually process quicker. And the other thing is that it does require your client to have an email address. Okay, so they have to have an email for you to go with the e-application. But I thought I'd just throw that out there. You can do it, right on your iPad or tablet, and just knock it out right away. That's all I have to say about Living Promise. It's my bread and butter. So good luck.
All right, guys. Yeah, it's a great problem. One thing, last little thing out, which we didn't mention, because Jimmy's talking about e-applications. You can a new feature that we can do now is that you're allowed to complete the aptical interview and do an e-application at the same time. So with that, guys, thank you everyone for attending today's webinar. Hopefully this information on the Living Promise has been helpful, and we will talk to you soon. Take care. Thanks, Jimmy.
Thank you, Joe.
Talk to you later, buddy.